Hello everyone, Chris Peterson here, bringing you another chess game. This one's going to be a little bit out of order because I wanted to get it done quickly. This is my game from round 3 of the 2013 Colorado Close, so played just a couple weeks ago actually. My opponent this time is Paul Anderson, who is an expert from Colorado Springs. So the Colorado Closed is an annual invitational event where the strongest players in the state participate in a round robin. This was my first year being invited, but I didn't make the cut for the top section. Instead, I was put in the challenger section. The winner of this challenger section is guaranteed an invitation to next year's top section. So I wanted to win. I went into this tournament like every tournament with optimism, but I quickly realized that I wasn't going to perform very well. I don't like to make excuses, so I won't, but know that I played pretty terrible for most of the event. The only person in the event that I was absolutely determined to beat was Paul Anderson, my opponent in this game. It wasn't a personal vendetta or anything. I'd never really met him before, but between his style and these arrogant-sounding newsletters that he sends out on a regular basis, just put this burning desire to checkmate him into me. So I was going into this game kind of seeing red almost. But we joked before the game that this game would end up either in one of his newsletters or on my YouTube channel, but maybe both. So he played d4. I played d5, c4, e6, knight c3, c5. And this is the Tarrasch defense to the Queen's Gambit. I had never played it in a tournament, and I've never played it in Blitz either, and this is my absolute first exposure to the opening, so I was pretty nervous about playing it. I've never, as it was a round robin, I knew a week or two in advance who I was playing and with what color. But I was torn as to what to play against Paul, and I kept bugging Robert Ramirez and Brian Wall. I was like, what should I play against Paul? They didn't really give me any hints, so I was just like, the Tarrasch Gambit should be pretty dynamic, so I'll throw that in there, or the Tarrasch defense. But I did want something sharp, as Paul's opening repertoire is deliberately designed to avoid any of the type of complications that I revel in. So c takes d5, and now I played knight f6 because I had no idea what I was doing. The typical main line is c takes d4, queen takes d4, knight c6, queen a4, e takes d5, and I guess this is some kind of main line. I'm not too sure about it. But instead I played this knight f6 move, and this actually leads into something called the Dutch-Peruvian Gambit, which I didn't know that at the time. Bishop g5, c takes d4. So there's a couple lines here in the Peruvian Gambit. The c takes d4 is the Dutch side, and then there's queen b6 is the Peruvian side. Oh, I guess I need to turn on analysis so Fritz doesn't want to play me. So there's some interesting games, like Spassky played this as white and crushed some other guy, but for the most part I didn't know anything about this opening going into this game. So I played c takes d4, queen takes d4, and I just simply played bishop e7. I just wanted to develop. Knight c6 is a pretty interesting line, because after queen a4, e takes d5, something like this happens, and these complications are really good for me, but because it's this opening that I've never played and it's really bizarre, I wasn't too confident in this, so I just played simply bishop e7, knight f3, and now h6 is pretty inaccurate. I should probably just take on d5, but h6 is interesting. If bishop takes f6, bishop takes queen a4, bishop d7, queen a3. Queen a3 is a really good move here. Bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, and now the threat on g7 forces me to castle, and now after d6, white is clearly better he's up a pawn, and he has that powerful pawn on d6, and even if I can corral it later on, he's still going to finish his development and have a better game. So instead I played h6, and Paul played bishop f4, which I didn't really expect it, but he has a pretty simple idea to play bishop takes b8. The computer likes this move, but I think it's a pretty bad move. It surprised me during the game because I didn't think anyone would be going after an a-pawn, especially with the lack of development that's currently being displayed by white. So the position's opening up. He's giving up his bishop to win an a-pawn, so it's kind of strange. Queen takes a7, and now I have a choice. Where do I want to put my bishop? I finally decided to go bishop g4 because it looked the most menacing, but bishop d7, bishop e6, and bishop f5 are also decent squares. Probably safer squares, but I was trying to be as menacing and trying to make it as complicated as possible. So here we see the first real blunder from Paul. He played knight d4, which is a really poor move. Maybe better is knight to e5, and then after castles, knight g4, queen d4, and now queen c8, threatening stuff like bishop c5, winning the f-pawn. H3, and here it's a complicated equality because black has 3 tempos for the development, 3 tempos of development for the a-pawn, which is adequate compensation, but white is pretty solid and could possibly hold on to his material advantage here. Of course, if knight takes d5, bishop c5 is going to win a pawn, and if he tries queen takes, then bishop f6 is putting up a lot of pressure on the queen side. Rook c1, rook d8, and black is getting a strong attack down the center. He's got pressure on the queen side, more than compensation for the 2 pawns that he's down. But after bishop g4, Paul played knight d4, and white is still pretty solid. There's still some work for black to do to make anything happen here, but it's starting to swing back into black's favor. So after castling, e3, normal, and now knight e4 is a really good move because my plan is to dislodge this c3 knight so that my bishop can swoop into b4 and cause all kinds of problems. And this kind of accentuates the problems that white has after giving up his dark squared bishop. So queen a4 is a really good move. Other things start getting really complicated. So knight takes e4, d takes e4, and then pretty much anything white does, bishop b5 check, bishop b4 check is coming in. So for example, bishop c4, bishop b4 check, and white's going to be in a big trouble. If he tries, say, bishop b5 now, there's this threat of knight c5, and now rook a8 is threatening to trap the queen, and white's going to have to do a lot of backpedaling to save material. And if he even can, it's not clear. But instead he played this nice consolidating queen a4 move. So I played rook a8, and now he's got a choice where to put his queen. He goes to b3. I don't believe c2 is much better because it's pretty much the same thing. So queen b3, and now I played knight takes c3, and basically I'm just creating a weakness on c3 because he's forced to play pawn takes c3. If he tries queen takes c3 here, rook a4 is going to be a really strong move because, well, there's really strong threat of bishop b4 winning the queen, and the only real way to stop that is to move the queen. But you can't move the queen because if bishop b4 check is going to be a checkmate, so he has to play a3, and then I just play bishop b4 anyway because I have this pin on the a file. And then something like this is getting really bad for white, as rook c8 is gonna win a lot of material or lead to a checkmate. I mean, maybe there's a better defense for white, but for the most part, black is just winning at that point. So knight c3, b takes c3 is pretty much forced. And then I played rook a3, just putting pressure on c3. Queen b, gaining a tempo and putting pressure. Queen b2, queen a5. And now another real blunder from Paul. Maybe I expected knight b3, queen c7, bishop b5. This is kind of what I was thinking. And then rook c8. And I'm probably better here, but I'm probably just going to get a kind of equality after a bunch of trades happen down the c file. And more than likely I can put enough pressure on the a file that I can win another pawn, but it's going to be a complicated ending that'll lead to some kind of grind. So another option might be for him to play bishop e2, and this is another move that I was half expecting. And then after rook c3 castles, bishop takes e2, queen e2, bishop f6, and I'm probably slightly better here, but it is still roughly equal. And I mean, material's equal. I do have an isolated d pawn in this ending, but I have a lot of activity and pressure down the a file, so it looks pretty equal to me. But instead, he played knight b5, which is just not a very good move at all. And after bishop f6, I'm putting a lot of everything's aimed at this c3 square, and you can really see the weaknesses of his dark squares. So, just as an example, he cannot take that rook on e3 because of these bishop takes c3 checkmate ideas, and knight takes a3, bishop c3 is going to be a checkmate. Or I can be cute and play queen c3 and win this way. And that's also a checkmate due to these crisscrossing bishops, which is pretty nice. So the rook on a3 is immune from capture, and that really leads the question, like, how does he defend? Well, he tried f3, which is not the best try. Perhaps best is queen d2, but I'm still going to be winning a lot of material after a sequence of moves like this. And I'm going to be up a lot of material because I'm gonna take his knight next, and it's just I'm going to be up at either a full piece. Yeah, it looks like I'll just be up a full piece. So instead, he tried f3. Well, let me see. So he tries f3, which just makes things worse. Because now after rook takes c3, I have all kinds of discovered checks available. Most potent is probably rook c2, winning the queen. Actually, that's probably a checkmate. So queen d2, and then now I played rook takes e3, but also strong is bishop h4 check, and then rook takes a3, because now I get f3 check in for free. Bishop takes f3 check, and white will probably be checkmated in a few short moves. But I just played rook takes e3, bishop e2, rook takes e2 check, and the idea is to undermine the defense of the b5 knight. King e2. And now I just took on b5, but I could throw in rook e8 check first, which would be a little better. But just about everything is hopeless for white at this point. And now he played queen d3, and queen d3 is just a forced checkmate. And I was considering announcing the forced checkmate, but I've never done that before, and I don't want to be a jerk, so I didn't do that. So this is how it might end up. And that's checkmate. But after queen d3, rook e8, Paul resigned here, as it is a forced checkmate. So this is the this is the only game I won out of the 5 games of the tournament. I got a pity draw from Robert Ramirez in round 1 and a quick draw against Kevin Seidler in round 4. I lost to both David Hartsook and Joshua Jex. So the game against Joshua Jex is really interesting. I'll probably do a video on that. But yeah, that's all I got, and I'll catch you guys next time.